Hi everyone, it's Celia and welcome. I'm going to be talking today about 6 months since my gastric bypass, RNY bypass at the end of June in 2021 and where I'm holding. I am very happily down 62 pounds from my highest weight, and that is fantastic. And I can already tell a difference in terms of my mobility going up and downstairs and the amount of energy that I have. My clothes are looser, and that's fantastic. And my HA1C blood glucose results are terrific. I don't have any risk at the moment of high blood pressure. My blood pressure is a fantastic reading, and my knees are feeling better going up and down the stairs too, so that's wonderful. Where I am encountering a problem is that I thought my weight loss had stalled for about 4 to 6 weeks, and I was making progress once again getting the weight down. But recently that weight's gone back up to the stall level, so I'm now officially stalled for the last 2 months. So I have put a lot of thought into figuring out why that is, and I've got some trusty notes here, and I'm going to share with you what I think is going on and what I'm going to do about it. So, number one, refined carbohydrates. I was really surprised when we got a guidebook from the hospital following surgery as to what we would be eating when we moved from the liquid phase to the kind of like smushy phase onto more solid foods. Now, with the gastric bypass, typically what you do is you will forever afterwards eat 6 times a day, 3 main meals and then 3 snacks. And for the meals, they suggest that you have grain at each and every one of them. And I was surprised to see that while they recommend rice, let's say for your evening meal, they don't narrow it down and say that it should be an unrefined rice, let's say like brown rice, but it can be a refined rice according to them. And for the breakfast and the lunch meals, they suggest such things as a bagel, English muffins, or cereals. Now, there are higher grain content versions of each of those, but in general, I was really surprised to see those items on the food list. I know for myself that I tend to be rather reactive to more refined carbohydrates, so I think that's one of the problems that I have been having, and I'm going to be working to reduce those refined carbohydrates, checking the food labels as well too for things such as the yogurts they recommended. In order to keep up calcium levels and to get in more protein, they suggest having at least 2 snacks a day with yogurt. But again, it can be sweetened yogurt. And I think my body is highly reactive to sugars, whether through things like sweetened yogurts or the refined carbohydrates. So I'm going to be cutting those way down. The second thing is that there have been a number of recommendations in the diet for very dense calories. For instance, for breakfast with your grain, they suggest having peanut butter, 1.5 to 2 tablespoons. Now, that's pretty high calorie, and I'm going to be reducing those calories to bring those down by getting my protein from other sources. For the 3 meals a day, I'm going to be focusing on getting my protein needs met with beans and legumes, lean meats and eggs, things like that, and also lean fish, although I will every now and then have some salmon in order to get those omega-3 fatty acids up. So that's the second thing I've identified as probably being an issue for me, the calorie-dense protein choices that I have been following. The third is that overall I think I'm not getting enough protein throughout the day. They recommend for women to get about 60 to 75 or 80 grams of protein a day following the surgery. Now that's a lot of protein, but you have to remember that people who generally have a gastric bypass are quite large, certainly at the start of the surgery, and so their protein needs are higher, and they are higher certainly within the first 6 months, but generally the first year following the surgery as well too, as the body is healing from all of the changes to the digestive system. So I am going to be carefully tracking in a little notebook like this what my food intake is and what my grams of protein are every day to make sure that I'm a little bit closer to that recommended level and that I'm not getting too many of my calories from other things like fat or carbohydrates. The fourth thing that I've identified is just not enough movement. I've been pretty sheltered in the house with COVID. During the summer months, we were discouraged from getting anything other than a little bit of walking in, and I did walk outdoors. And I finally got cleared for returning to more vigorous exercise at the end of November. And I thought, great, I'm going to go back to my gym where I can walk on the treadmill, because I really only am able to walk for longer periods of time here in Quebec in the fall and winter months if it's indoors, because I have fibromyalgia, and I get fibromyalgia flares with the cold and the damp, which is sort of like our season over here for 6 months. But with the COVID cases rising in Quebec, pretty much soon after the gym reopened, a week and a half later, it was closed down once again. So I am working on movement within the house. And what I'm doing, and I just started here now in January to help me with that, is that there's a wonderful channel called Derek's Journey, where every month they have sort of like group and individual step challenges. I joined that, and I'm on a team. I find that really motivating because people cheer each other on, and it's not so much a question of you have to get a set number of steps in. It's more of a friendly competition where everybody encourages you to get as many steps as you possibly can, whatever level of fitness you're able to operate at. So I'm going to be getting more movement in, and I'm going to be adding some body weight exercises at home as well too, to start building some muscle. And now the last thing that I'm going to work on, I read a number of studies that suggest that this has an impact on the body's ability to lose weight and to keep the weight off, to change one's insulin spiking, and that is I'm working on my sleep hygiene. I am going to make sure that I am getting off of any screens, whether it's my phone or a computer or watching a TV, for instance, which I do sometimes with my sons in the evening. I'm going to be cutting that time off, let's say an hour and a half before bed. I'm going to be making sure I take a warm bath and an herbal tea with no caffeine in it. And I'm going to move the yoga and stretching that I do for my fibromyalgia from earlier in the day to the evening just before bed, because I find that very relaxing for my muscles. If I have any free time after that, in that hour and a half, then what I'm going to do is just read something, not too stimulating, not any of the thrillers that I love to read. And I'm also then going to spend a little bit of time maybe meditating or writing in my journal. So those are the things that I am going to be doing going forward. I hope to post a video with weigh-ins every 2 weeks. I'm not going to do every week because I have the kind of stinking thinking, that black and white, all or nothing thinking that I'm working to change, where if I don't see progress regularly enough, it kind of triggers me emotionally. So instead, this way, if I do it every 2 weeks, I'm going to be training myself to view the lifestyle changes that I'm making as permanent and not necessarily attached to the number on the scale, but rather something that I want to do every day going forward to take care of myself, to be as healthy as possible. So I am going to share another update with you, let's say around February 1st, and then the middle of February, and every 2 weeks thereafter. What I'm going to be doing in my trusty little notebook over here, I'm going to be recording and tracking what it is that I am eating and getting a sense of the macro distribution for the proteins and the carbs and the type of carbs that I'm eating and the type of fats that I'm selecting to eat. I'm also going to be tracking my movement and my exercises, and as well, I'm going to be, also measuring inches, so that as I add body weight exercises at home, I'll be able to determine if the scale isn't budging, let's say for a week or two. I'll be able to see if maybe I'm losing inches instead, and that the weight isn't reflecting a lack of progress, but rather is maybe showing a bit of muscle gain. Fat loss and muscle gain can cancel each other out. So those are the plans going forward. If you're on a weight loss journey, I want you to keep in mind that this is just the start of the year. And if you haven't had a perfect start, you're human, that's normal, and that's perfectly fine. That has always been a problem for me, thinking, oh my gosh, I've already messed up the year. I'm doing a lousy job. I get myself down, and what do I do then? I want to comfort myself emotionally, and I want to eat. What I'm doing this year instead is I'm thinking of the end of the year instead of the beginning. I'm saying to myself, hey, Aaliyah, you know what? There are 52 weeks, there are 50 weeks left now. And even without weight loss surgery, if you're doing this entirely under your own power, let's say, There are 50 weeks left in the year right now. And with lifestyle changes of cutting back just 250 calories a day with what you're eating and increasing your movement 250 calories a day, which is achievable for most of us very readily and easily, you'll be losing, what, a pound a week. And if you do a little bit more than that, if you're grossly morbidly obese, it's a little bit easier to start losing weight and to lose in greater quantities, and somebody who's already closer to their ideal weight. If we lose 2 pounds a week by the end of the year, that's 100 pounds down. 50 or 100 pounds down is significant. And you know what? If I had even said to myself, Aaliyah, even if you lose a half a pound a week, celebrate that, years ago, I would have been at my ideal weight. So please, if you're a little bit like me and you start thinking that, okay, it's got to be all or nothing, now or never, lose that habit this year. That's the one habit to really excise from your repertoire. Start thinking in terms of, I'm going to make progress this year, and if it takes me longer, then why? Wow, look at where I'm going to be 2 years from now. Okay, so I hope that helps a little bit. I'll be back in 2 weeks sharing with you my progress. If you're on a weight loss journey, please let me know in the comments down below so we can cheer each other on and support each other. I find it really helpful to learn from other people what it is they're doing that helps them, where it is that they may be stumbling, and things that they can change going forward. And I hope that maybe you can learn from me as well too. So thank you very much for joining me. I wish you a great couple of weeks, and I'll be back with you at the start of February with an update, and we'll see where we're holding. Okay, take good care of yourselves, and bye for now. Good night, everyone.